I didn't get that, but we'll go with what we got. Good morning, everybody out there.
When she was out there talking, I couldn't understand a word that woman was saying.
I started to get up and go back to the sound booth. I don't know why our gentleman can't understand what loud means. I've been harping at him for 6 weeks to play everything loud.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I could just hear once in a while. I didn't understand one word she'd say, but most of her talking, I didn't understand nothing that woman said. Not a word.
Well, I'm sorry for that.
My hearing's not too good anymore.
We have a number of people who have hearing problems, though, and so that's why we need to play everything loud. I don't know what
we do what we gotta do.
I don't know what we can do about not being able to see, but we'll just feel our way around, and maybe we can get it where we can hear. It's good to see y'all today. Barbara just shared with us that Sully is still in the hospital, and you said 6 weeks, didn't you?
Wednesday it'll be 6.
Wednesday be 6.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Darned if we do and darned if we don't.
Sullivan.
There's a reason for it. We just don't understand it.
Fredericks.
I said God does to us some strange things sometimes, but He's got a reason for everything He does. So, but He helps me through some things sometimes that I was shocked. I said, "How did I get through that?" But we get through. If that's the way He wants it, that's the way we're gonna get it.
When I pray for Sullivan, I try to pray like his mom and daddy are praying, and like the way his parents and grandparents
He
are
will get
praying,
better, yeah.
and with the same kind of
We always want to pray for the baby, for the children.
heart.
It's enough for us to pray for the grown-ups, but we need to for the children for sure, because they're still in the learning process, trying to figure out what's going on in life. And if they find out, that'd be nice if they'd tell me.
Liz's sister Ina passed away Tuesday, and it was
Who did?
Liz's sister.
Oh,
Liz's sister Ina Martin passed away Tuesday, and the funeral was Friday. Her passing was very, very difficult. Over the years as a pastor, one of the things that I've seen a lot of life and death and dying. And some people, their passing is, even inspirational or something admirable, faith inspiring even, and then sometimes I see people whose passing is very difficult and painful, and it's Joanne was just talking about God's ways, and we don't always understand. I'm one of those people too that believes that there's purpose in things. I had an eye-opening experience on the way to church this morning. Often when we're driving down the road, I know you experienced it too, you're on a 2-lane highway, and you look up and you see in the distance the car that is approaching you is in your lane. So we've all seen that. So your mind says, well, they're buckling their seatbelt or changing channels on the radio or lighting a cigarette. Used to be not too many people smoke anymore, I guess, as many as when I remember as a child. They drop something in the floorboard, and you think, okay, I'm just going to kind of hold course here and kind of pay attention. And of course, in most occasions, evidently they wake up or come to or pay attention, and they're back in their lane again.
back over in their lane, yeah.
Well, this one this morning didn't, and I had to go right into the ditch.
Was it on Bethel Road?
No, it was on the Vaughn Bridge Road.
It's bad on Bethel.
Yeah,
I meet them a lot like that.
I have met a few, and so you're going along, you say, I got a few aches and pains. I've hit a certain number of years, and I have genetic dispositions. We're all perhaps at risk. But even at this stage of living many years, we don't usually think, well, we could just leave this world just like that. You know, you could just be driving down the road and even your big toe feels better, you know, and just all of a sudden some fool who is, I don't know, maybe they're talking to the children in the back seat or something, but they just, you know, from time to time we hear on the news, you know, someone died in a crash, and you say, well, and the police just say, we have no idea how it happened, you know. No. So someone just crossed over in the lane. Well, so I enjoyed the rest of my trip immensely. I smelled the flowers and looked at the birds and the trees all along the way. I appreciated a lot. I said, well, that was a close call. My goodness. God says, well, just wake up a little bit.
They didn't stop.
No, I watched them in the rearview mirror. They just corrected course. May not even given it a thought. Just driving on down the road. But I hope whatever their problem was, it doesn't endanger anybody else. So.
That's a thing when somebody does something like that. They're not just endangering their life, they're endangering other people.
We got to see, you know, on Saturday last week, not yesterday, but I went to visit her. I got to have prayer with her, but she was already having lots of difficulties, and most of her care, now the hospice was in, and they helped, no doubt, but most of her personal care, Ina required Liz to take care of it. So feeding, cleaning, and support of every kind. So Liz is really empty right now. If you can share a word of encouragement with her, it would do a lot of good. Pray for the Martin family, for Ina's family. She never married and didn't have any children, and but was a beloved sister and aunt. And her nieces and nephews mourned her passing. Tuesday is Karen Reeves' birthday. Not only has a birthday to celebrate, but new grandbaby, has a grandson and granddaughter now. 16th. Wednesday is my daughter Carice's birthday. 17th, August 17th. She was born in Arkansas about 39 years ago. 39. I'll have to ponder on that a little bit.
Well, at least she wasn't born in a foreign country.
That's almost like
my
it.
daddy laughed. He said, why did I marry a foreigner? Because if you wasn't from Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, you were a foreigner.
Yeah.
And he said, how in the world did you get mixed up with a foreigner? But when they come down here to visit, Daddy wanted to move down here. He loved it.
Yeah.
He said that foreign country is really nice.
Last Sunday, we had several of Ronnie's relatives and family here, and they requested prayer for his twin sister, Bonnie. Let's continue to pray for Bonnie. Bonnie Shelton is Ronnie's twin sister, and she has been struggling with sickness for a long time. Continue to pray for Danny Ward. He last Sunday, I noticed that he had dispensed with his arm sling.
He's still in a sling, yeah.
So, but he's still.
But I tried to call him a couple of times this week, and I couldn't get him. They never did answer the phone.
I don't know if they were out of touch or out of town, but I appreciate
Well,
your
that's
call.
what I started saying, either that or gone to the doctor or gone to a grocery store, or, I don't know. But anyway, I know I was going to tell him that I tried to get a hold of him to check on him, just to see how he was doing. 'cause you know he's my stepson. Him and Clayton were like brothers.
Yeah.
They worked together for a long
There's-
time and everything.
I believe the last time Clayton and his wife visited with us recently, and not too long ago, but I remember that when Danny had his heart attack, that Clayton and them went to see him in the hospital, so they still
Oh,
close,
yeah.
stay in touch.
Well,
Continue to pray.
Like he said, it's his stepbrother.
Continue to pray for his son Shannon.
Yeah.
Shannon's still having some health problems.
That's what I started to say. What is his problem?
Well, he had some kidney problems recently. Young man to have kidney problems, but
I heard that he was having problems, but I didn't hear what.
yeah, well, that's just one of them, I think. So he and his wife are newly married. They were married only a month or so ago, I guess. Pray for he and his family. Continue to pray for Lucy Ward as she is posted over in Kuwait. Pray for the Randalls as they are in Guam. Always pray for Betsy Stevenson and Ned. Pray for Donna Serta. There are others on our prayer list, people for whom we pray all the time. Pray for each one of our members and family members at large. And those are pray for Henry and Linda Crow.
Is he getting where he can walk better now?
Ned, I think he
Not
has
him.
good days and bad days, and Henry has some difficulty as well with knees and ankles kind of worn.
I knew it was something to do with his leg or foot. I knew they'd been having, but she told me that they'd been watching a preaching on their computer or what, that little thing that they watch it on. But she said they watch it all the time, so they could keep up with what's going on at church, even though they couldn't come.
Let's pray. I'm sure there is someone that I've, Terry's mother and father and brother all tested positive for COVID-19 this week. So,
My nephew did too, him and his wife.
Avery on her second or third day of school got sick at her desk, and mother had to go pick her up. That's the middle grandchild, so we've had a trying week. But let's pray together. Our lesson jumps us a little bit far over into the book. We're going to be wrapping up Kings here in just a little bit, but we're in the 17th chapter of 2 Kings today. Let's pray, and I trust that our broadcast is sending out. Lord, we do thank you for the privilege of praying for each other. Thank you for those who bring our name before you. There's some great power in your name, and there is no greater spoken word that we seem to find pleasure in hearing ourselves than when someone speaks our name. When they know our name and they call it, it means that they know us, they remember us, and we're on their heart, on their list, in their mind, and that's important. Sometimes speaking a person's name gets us into a door or gives us place for privilege. Sometimes when we are able to call someone's name as our benefactor, it is a blessing to us and opens opportunities for us. We understand all of that. So when we speak their names in your presence, when we pray their names with requests, it's not magic or superstition. There is something that is very real about it, that is a part of how we think, what we know, and what we believe, how we respond, and what meaning and value there is to the things that are a part of our life. Lead us this morning and help us to understand your word, your direction, your reproof, your correction, and even your judgment in our lives. For we ask this, Lord Jesus, in your name. Amen. We come to chapter 17, verse 1. It says, in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. It's a long time for a president to be in office, but we have found that last week we talked about the king, Josiah, that he was for 40 years king over Israel. He did that which, it says Ahaz, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him, well, let me make a comment. Sometimes the mistakes we make or the choices we make are because we're following a pattern, or because of the influence of those who came before us. It's unusual and noteworthy here that it says that Ahaz did evil which was in the sight of the Lord, but it was a different kind of evil. It says it wasn't like his predecessors. He was creative. And so we can't really blame or lay blame to, we go through, we'd like to say our mom or our dad made us the way we are, or that some person influenced us, or the reason I am the way I am is because of people in my past. Well, we are all independent individuals that can make choices. And so here this king, he decided he was not going to be obedient to the Lord, but it says it not like he disobeyed in God in different ways. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. The word probably here means tribute. It's like protection money. In our nation's history, this has been a big enterprise of the mob and the mafia. They'll come into your home or your business and say, we'll keep anything bad from happening to you, but you're going to have to pay us a monthly fee. And so the guy says, well, bad things never really happen to me much. And so they go in there and pull all the merchandise off his shelves and break all of his windows and tear up the windows and doors. And they say, well, see there, those are terrible things. And they said, yeah, but you did that. And he said, yeah, we won't do that again, but you're going to have to pay us. Extortion. Protection racket. Well, Shalmaneser came in, and they paid him tribute money, gave him presents, the King James says. But they began to conspire. Let's go on down to verse 7. This is where I want to head to today. And so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods, or had respect or notion, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel, and the king of Israel, which they had made. It's strange to worship, pray to, and serve a God that you made. And the children of Israel, well, let me make a note here too before I get. Many unbelievers believe that God and Jesus are gods that we've made. That he's just like us. That he's just a figment of our imagination. But we have created God in our image. That's a false accusation. They built them high places, it says in verse 9, in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, and did, as did the heathen whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. Now, there is special religious language that the Bible uses from beginning to end because of the necessity of religious language or symbolical language or representational language. God is not a human being. He's not a man or a woman. He is not made of flesh and blood. Jesus said in John's Gospel, chapter 4, that God is a spirit. It's not that, yes, he has a Holy Spirit, but that is he. That's who he is. God is not a flesh and blood human being. He's not just like a man or a woman, only bigger or stronger or smarter or better. When he created us, humanity, when he made man and women, he made creatures who have similarities. The Bible describes God as being invisible. John says in his first chapter, no man has seen God at any time because God is unseeable. And so the Bible describes God in what's called anthropomorphic language. It talks about God like he was a human, like he was a man. It's really the only way we can wrap our mind around it. The way we think about God is we think about him being like us, when as a matter of fact we're different, and he wants us to strive to be more and more like him. But God was not made of dust or dirt. He is not a human being. He doesn't have bones and blood and skin and bone. He is a different kind of being than we are. When God required a body, that's where Jesus comes into the plan of God. Jesus was someone that we could see. We could touch him. He had hair and skin, and he was flesh and blood. He was someone we could hear his voice. We could see him. Jesus became a human being. Jesus was a human being, and that's what John's context is in the first chapter there. He says, nobody's seen God, but Jesus made God seeable, made God visible, made God touchable. Jesus came so that God said, okay, here you've had a really hard, impossible time of connecting. Jesus became the greatest point of connection. As a matter of fact, Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. So Jesus is the place where we can go to. As a matter of fact, Philip, there in the 14th chapter of John, Philip said, Lord, show us the Father. We want to see God. And Jesus said, Philip, when you look at me, you're seeing the Father. Well, right here, there's also anthropopathic language. Pathos is passion or emotion. Right here, it says in verse 11 that, and there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. So here it's describing God as being angry. Now, anger is a human emotion. It's ascribing to God a human characteristic or trait. I know what happens to me when I get angry. I fly off the handle. It is something that when I get angry, it prompts me to act in a particular way. It is a passion that drives me. It is an emotion that stirs me. Well, God doesn't fly off the handle. He is not driven by his feelings, our emotions, or his passions. When I feel sad or happy or angry, those things control me. They reign over me. And it's one of the weaknesses that every human being faces, that our feelings often get the best of us. Well, this is a way of describing God that we understand. I know what it feels like to be angry. Let's look at this for a moment, though. Really what our lesson today is about God giving instructions and laws and commandments. God making rules. And then human beings, his children, people. And we're finding out that the Old Testament is not just about Jews or Israelites. God is everybody's God. He's talking here about the Assyrians. He's talking about what their kings did. And so God is, even though they worship false gods, and they call them the heathen. My mother used to call me that. Come in, you little heathen, before I have to wear you out with a switch. Didn't know what a heathen was, but I was pretty sure it wasn't a good thing. And so when I began to read the word heathen in the Bible later on as I grew up, I thought, oh my, my mother knew what a heathen was. Not very good people. But
Heathens do strange things.
and then the people, us, disobeyed God's laws. We broke his rules. We disregarded his instructions. And then God punishes us. He judges us. He reproves us and rebukes us and corrects us. And he punishes us through, we get whatever goes around comes around. What we reap what we have sown. We get blowback from, it's like the old Jim Croce song, which was a quotation of an old saying, you know, it's like spitting into the wind. Spitting into the wind is not a good idea. It only comes back into your face. Well, since the fall, we were damaged. It's not just that Adam and Eve broke a rule and ate a forbidden fruit. That started a pattern which became a part of our psyche. It became a part of our mentality. It became a part of our spirituality. We became habitual lawbreakers. It opened the floodgate. As we say, one thing led to another, and another, and another, and another. And so, one of the things that Adam and Eve didn't consider or realize was that this was not just one failure or shortcoming, not just one disobedience. As almost always is, when you and I when we make a mistake, when we get color outside the lines, or when we break the rules, it does seem to almost always eventually lead to other failures. One bad choice leads to another. We find if we tell one lie, we have to tell another lie to cover that one up, and it just seems to be that's humanity. That is our condition. In our fallen state, there's something, a part of our very nature, that makes us feel rebellious about rules. Probably one of the very first words a little bitty baby learns is the word no. No, don't touch that, it'll burn you, or don't pull the cat's ears. No, and so children learn, or at least are exposed. Sometimes they never learn the meaning of no. There's a Finnish comedian on Facebook Reels, and he's only been able to speak English for just a little while, but he said he learned a phrase this week, and it is